Hello, my name is Michael. I'm going to demonstrate the new Unity 3D virtual reality education platform that we have developed. Basically allows anyone to easily create virtual environments. So in this case, we've created actually a virtual laboratory. You can see here on the right side I have my assistant, I have my lab pad here in front of me, and I have a whole array of machines and equipment, really expensive equipment in the real world that I can use to interact with. So I'm going to put on the gloves here to go through the demo, but you can follow along both on the screen and of course also see me navigate around here. So I'm just going to reset here. I have my virtual cursor in it, which I can use to interact with all of the different equipment. So in this case, for instance, I have my lab pad and I can read about the theory that I'm going to learn about in this specific simulation. This is a cytogenetics lab where the students learn about cytogenetics. I also have media in terms of different images or videos and so forth. And this is all pulled out from Wikipedia, from different online Wikipedias that we developed together with teachers. This is about right now biotechnology and biology and medicine and so forth, but it can work in any type of simulation really. It does not have to be within those specific fields. It could also be cooking in a kitchen, for instance, as an example. So in this case, I have to do an experiment, and the lab pad to the left side always guides me through the different steps. So in this case, I have to put on lab code first. And then I'm going to continue here. I have to go to workbench number 1, which is over here to the right. The lab pad again gives you guidance and helps you, and it always redirects you to the relevant theory. So for instance, in this case I can click View Theory, and I can read a little bit before I go into a specific experiment to make sure that I understand everything that I'm doing. We will also quiz the student in different cases to make sure that they fully understand it. So in this case I've done this experiment a couple of times. I need first to put on some gloves, and again the lab pad tells me also up here. So I'm going to put up some gloves, there we go. And then I'm going to take out a 15 test tube here, 15 milliliter test tube, which it tells me here as well. And then I'm going to take our syringe over here. This is a sample that we got from a hospital. So there's been a scene before this one. I've stepped into the middle of this specific simulation. And now here I have now my test tube, and in this case I have to actually put it into a centrifuge, and then for 10 minutes I need to perform a centrifuge on this one. And yeah, of course we don't have 10 minutes, and we don't really need that either here in the virtual world. So I'm just going to open up this guy. There we go. And then I'm going to put in the test tube. Okay, close and start. There we go. Okay, so now the centrifuge is running, and the lab pad has already informed us that the 10 minutes has passed, so that we don't have to wait as in the real world, and we can take out the test tube in this case. There we go. And I'm just going to go back. Now notice that I never use the keyboard or anything to navigate around it. I always just use the mouse. I use the left button to click around, and I use the right button to go backwards if I need to move back. And here I can perform then a lot more experiments, or I have to do a couple of extra steps. I'm not going through all of it right now, but just to show you quickly, here I have my pipette, for instance, and I just put on a pipette tip. And you see again, I can inspect it, and really it feels like I am just in a real laboratory in this specific case. And in this case, I just took out some nuked supernatant from the test tube here that we had after the experiment. Oh, and you see, actually I forgot to take off the pipette tip. I'm just going to throw that out. And then here the lab pad is then asking me questions to confirm that I actually understand what I'm doing. So in this case, that could be a risk. There we go. I'm just going to skip quickly through it, but this helps us really understand whether or not the students are really learning, and whether or not we need to change or adapt the learning. So we actually have adaptive learning algorithms that also allows you, for instance, as the content creator, to create different types of content depending on how the students progress through the laboratories. Okay, so there we go. So you see I have, again, a full laboratory. I have lots of different equipment. I can go close and I can sort of interact with it and really look at it. Now I want to show you how advanced you can actually take this with this computer over here that we have at workbench number 4. Just before that, let me just showcase you workbench number 2 here. This is an incubator that we have in the laboratory, so you can incubate the different tests for a certain number of minutes, however long you want to use it. Or here we have the hybridization oven. I have to make sure I pronounce that correctly. And again, I can perform all kinds of experiments with these different machines, and there is mathematical simulations that simulate it as if it was real world. Over here we have a microscope, and I also have a very expensive microwave scanner, and of course it's fully simulated here in the virtual world, so I could put in different tests, and then I've hooked up this computer over here to this other simulator. And again, this is something that content creators can do very easily. You don't have to be an actual developer to do this. It's very easy to adapt the lab and put out different equipment. And I can also, for instance, here with the microscope, put in different samples, test samples into this, and I can actually investigate it here directly on the screen in the microscope. But here I can also sit down in front of the computer, and I've cheated a little bit, and I've actually performed one of the experiments ahead of time. So here I have the results of one of the tests that I've done, and I have a full overview, in this case, for instance, of the chromosomes. But what's interesting is here I have a really big computer monitor that I can use and I can interact with fully. So for instance, in this case, it's not just a static image that I'm looking at, it's actually an interface, and you can create apps or so forth for these computer screens. In this case, I, as a student, would have to analyze the test results from what we actually just worked over here at the other table over there. So I can work on that, and I can investigate and see, okay, what's the situation with this specific chromosome, and I can then really zoom in and have a close look, like, okay, that's interesting, and this is what's happening here. So the student can really interact and analyze as if it was a real laboratory that they're engaging with. And again, at any time, the lab pad is here to help the student through it. So for instance, in this specific case, I might want to read some of the theory around how to actually read this data that I see on the screen. So I can use the lab pad to learn about that. And it's really convenient to just be able to turn your head to the left, and then you have the relevant material, theory that you would want to learn about in this specific case. So again, the theory that we have is basically a Wikipedia that's made online, and it's very easy to edit and add images and videos and so forth. And then this virtual lab pad then creates a virtual representation of the Wikipedia that is again mapped to the learning that the students are going through. Okay, so that's pretty much the demo that I wanted to showcase in this specific example. I hope that sort of gives you the idea of what's possible in these virtual education simulations that we've made a platform for. And I really hope that we can see more developers join us and help create more content for these virtual learning simulations. And again, you can sort of imagine what you could do with this. And again, don't restrict yourself to a virtual laboratory. It just in this case is a virtual laboratory that we're using, but it could be any type of simulation that you might want to create to perform different types of learning simulations. So yeah, I hope that grabbed your interest. If you have any questions, of course, let me know at any time. I'd be happy to answer and elaborate more on what the potential and the possibilities are with this platform. We are very interested both in working with more developers, even to join us if you're interested, but also if you would like to create your own education simulations using this platform. So yeah, thanks. That's all.